Good afternoon. Welcome to a special PACE Review Committee meeting, uh, originally scheduled for November 14th. Obviously, it isn't November 14th today. Um, let's do a quick roll call. Jim Bartlett,
Lisa Ferguson.
Kara Fox.
Steve over here.
so we're all here. Um, go over real quickly how this works. Uh, each of you will do a short presentation or description of your project. We'll have some questions for you, and along the way, we'll be filling out a form. It's a score sheet, and basically get different scores for different aspects of the project. Um, the minimum score for any given project today is 36 points. And you'll find some of our questions seem silly, but some of them are geared towards the form, and some of them we just want to know. So then the at the end of the meeting, we'll get the scores of all of the score sheets, and then based on those sheets that have qualifying scores, we'll make a decision on awarding the grants. And of course, we don't actually award the grants. We make a recommendation to the Board of Public Works. They have ultimate finish say-so on the grants. But our recommendation generally goes when it goes to the Board of Public Works. With that, Mark and Lisa Ferris here. Lisa?
Yes.
All righty. Tell us about your project.
So what we would like to do is our home has an original area of the home, which is 2 rooms on the first floor, 2 rooms on the second floor, and an attic. That section of the house has 12 windows. We would like to replace those windows. They are wood windows. We would like to replace them with a wood window with an aluminum clad on the outside. There currently is an aluminum flashing around the windows. We would also like to replace our front door of our home, as well as the storm door.
Okay. And all of the products that you're going to be using have gotten a COA from the Historic Board of Review?
Yes.
Okay.
Has it been deemed unsafe?
Yes.
I'm having trouble getting it to open, but that's okay.
It's your residence.
Yes.
And of course, that property is currently occupied, or is not currently?
It is.
It is currently occupied?
Yes, the building inspector at the time, that it was deemed unsafe and the windows dilapidated,
Mm-hmm.
recommended that we remove all of the glass from the panes and board the windows that were in the worst shape, that were missing actual panes of glass, board them up until we could replace them.
Okay.
And so that is what has been done to 4 of the 12.
Okay. And that's why you're able then to occupy the property currently?
Yes.
Okay. So you're looking for a 50% match on your proposed cost of the project?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
No question.
Steve?
Good project. It needs it.
Yes, it does.
Sorry.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I apologize, I did neglect to mention that. You all do not have to be at the Board of Public Works meeting. So next would be Brantley and Caitlin Beck.
It's obviously not me.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's obviously you.
They can't be here, but I'm Brian Martin. Can I be here on their behalf? So as far as clarity goes, Nicole, do you know they've already gone through the process once, correct?
Yes. So they had been awarded, for 208. Previously it was one, parcel. They have since, split it into the two, which is why they're asking for a second grant.
So I think maybe Katie wasn't 100%, understanding that process in the beginning when she got the first grant. And the building is, from day one, it's definitely two buildings. It has a structural separation, has a fire separation. The way you enter, the apartments, there's the east side and the west side. So I think it's logical for them in that regard. So of course, we've also done a lot of work to this point, but there's still plenty of work yet to be done. Call what we've done so far for Hollywood, for the TV show. I'm sure you're all aware of that.
Yeah, we are.
There's, so from top to bottom, parapet walls, the brickwork from the rooftop, coping, flashing. Still, the wood windows were restored, but they're not complete. Flashing details up top, slate work, more gutter, basically all of the metal work, the gutter pan at the top, as well as the secondary cornice line, the metal work that's there. There's multiple things that still need to be completed. Everything was just completed to the point of looking pretty for the film crew. So I guess in splitting that, call it the 208, the west side being the first portion, there still will be work to be done on that as well, but specific to this application and 206. And probably the biggest component as far as completion of that is we have done, I don't know, percentage-wise as far as tuck pointing of the building. There's a lot of the exterior that you can't see, east side, west side, and the south. We've done as much as we can reach, but the east side, because of a situation with the neighboring building, we can't gain access to it yet. So there's actually a tremendous amount of tuck pointing to be done there. Again, that's specifically on 206. Probably will end up even costing more than your traditional, or standard tuck pointing situation, simply because the way that we have to access it will probably be non-traditional, beyond just setting some scaffolding up. So that's probably the major component of what's left to be done. But again, certainly components of every bit of the restoration from top down, as far as weathering the building, saving it structurally, weathering and just to keep the elements out, all that good stuff. So I kind of rambled on there, but
So ultimately, what is their use for the building once they get it done?
so it's living space above. The 206 will be a basically a two-story living unit, which is exactly how it originally was. The west side, the 208 side, will be two one-bedroom apartments. Again, exactly how it originally was laid out. So all of the interior, you know, the structure, doorways, access points, that's pretty much identical to how it was built, you know, from day one. So putting it back as is. So 3 living units above, and then the lower level will be 2 commercial retail spaces of whatever, you know, whatever comes along. They have interest. They don't have anyone locked in on that yet. So, and the retail spaces below have their own separate entrances and everything. Again, as you know, it was originally designed, and even was like that when we got there. But we put it back to an original, you know, step back entrance, but it still is 2 separate entrances. So,
How long has it been vacant?
oh boy. You know, I don't know. Everyone calls it the Oscar Bear Building. I can't remember when they were actually in business. I mean, I've been here almost 30 years, and I can't remember for sure if there was anything. I think maybe the jewelry store might have been in there at some point along the way. I know the previous owner he just fiddled around with it, and I think he opened it up for an occasional, you know, selling some antiques or something. So it got a minor bit of life, but not much. So for many, many years.
5 to 10?
Oh, easily.
Kara
yeah,
said more
yeah,
than 10.
Yeah,
Alright.
yeah.
And had this building been deemed unsafe?
Was, right?
I don't know
Don't know that it was officially deemed unsafe. I don't have that letter, at least, if it had been.
Okay.
I thought we found out it was. I thought we found out it was when we
What are you going with?
processed
It was.
first time.
Well, if
Thinks it was at one time.
if we don't have a letter deeming it unsafe, then we don't have a letter deeming it unsafe.
Okay.
I mean, that's pretty straightforward. That's a yes, no question. But it's certainly a very good project. Now that is that building visible? It's not on the alley, so
No.
the only alley running is behind it.
Yeah.
And is it actually behind it, or is it behind a different building that's behind
Yeah,
it?
this building does not go to the alley.
Okay. I didn't think it
yeah,
did.
Yeah, that's one reason probably why it sat empty for so long, was no one wanted to take
No
it on, because it's a
access.
very,
No
very
access
difficult
back
building.
there.
Yeah. And again, not that it matters in the big picture, as far as you know, the balance of money spent and all, but again, given that scenario, as far as saving a building that you know was kind of almost sitting dead, you know, utilities. I know you guys don't pay for utilities, but electrical was a nightmare, and they couldn't even reach it. You know, sewer was completely it went under another building and it was collapsed. That's what they're doing now, you know, sewer and water. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So certainly not a practically usable building by any stretch without the major investments.
Yeah. Well, it definitely needs some love.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
Should we say no?
On the
He said we
question of unsafe, I think we have to if we don't have a letter.
I just did a quick search and I did not find anything. If
Okay.
it was prior to 2016, which means that designation has expired.
Okay.
So, any other questions?
Nope.
All right.
No.
Well, sir, thank you.
Thank you.
That's fine.
Jeffrey Cobble?
Hello, I have the house at 1017 West First Street, by the tack factory, I think it's, yes, across the street. I'm an architect, I've retired and up from Florida, and I live at Hanover Beach, and I have been here since I was 7 years old, and this place is incredible, historically, just incredible. So I feel very privileged to have acquired that piece of property. As you can imagine, well, I don't know if you know the history of the property, but it's been there a while. I'm pretty sure it's, yeah. So, as you're aware, banks don't really like to invest their money in places that don't show. So I have lots of money invested in that property, and I'm doing most of the work myself, and it is such a pleasure. And it is, the bones of that building are really, really good. It's the surrounding stuff, the openings, and so, in this grant I'm asking for would be for the window replacement. I've done a lot of forensics on the building, and I'm pretty sure how it was built and when it was built, and there's a significant addition on the back, although it was addition probably 20 years after the original was built, and this intent is to get the entire replace all of the windows that were original to the building, to tuck point the entire building, to the fascia, or the fascia up top. There are several missing brackets, and to get that completely restored and painted 100%, painting of the outside of the building, and there were some structural problems, but they ended up just being minor that I was able to correct. So that's sort of, it's honestly making this project viable and I'd be happy to answer any questions, because I had a lot and I figured out a lot about the building.
Now, that's a corner lot, is it not?
It is. So I'm planning on both sides of at very minimal, but we're looking at placing all the windows that were original.
And do you intend that to be your residence when it's done?
Well, yes, sir. It is, so when it was chopped up into apartments, it was done so, I guess, haphazardly, but I was able to take all of the walls that were out, and it just becomes this beautiful flowing plan. Yes, my intent is to live there, yes, as my address.
You are a brave soul, and we're great.
If I would, it was interesting when I went down and I saw the building, I was intrigued by it, and there was a guy outside, and I said, it was for sale. And I said, does he really want to sell this? And he goes, yeah, I think he really does. So I met the owner, and we basically sat in the parking lot of a store up there, and I wrote the offer out to him and took it, and I didn't really get to go inside the building that much. There were many, many human beings living in that building.
Yes.
And
We
so
all
anyway, it's so beautiful now. It's just,
So was it occupied,
It was.
or has it been occupied here?
well, they were apartments. There are separate meters there are 3 meters, so they are apartments. And when I bought the building, there were technically people living downstairs in the basement and on the first floor. There was no one on the second floor except for a couple that were related. Anyway, so they asked me to let them stay there, and I let them stay there rent-free for 3 months but there were 8 human beings in that one apartment with 400 square feet. And thankfully, it was not a big deal to get them out. You know, we were kind to each other and let them stay for a few months. And anyway, it all worked out. So there's no one in there with me rooting around.
And how long ago has it been that you got them out then?
It has been empty since I bought it in March. They were out in August, and I have been in ever since. I was just explaining, I took 4 40-yard dumpsters of stuff. Their clothing piled up to ceilings, and yeah, it was occupied, but it wasn't
Yeah.
really. There was no heat in 2 of them.
And I assume this building has not been deemed unsafe?
I have a file on it. I don't have an official letter, but I would classify it as unsafe. I just don't think the letter was processed in between building inspectors. But we have a unsafe file for this.
It was particularly an attractive nuisance. There's a basement door down there that would get, after I bought it, would be kicked in every time I came back. I would try to, and so they were living in the basement, vagrants, or whoever, I guess, homeless people, whatever.
Any other questions from anyone?
No, just a comment, another great project.
Yes. Eventually, you'll have a nice place with Heritage Trail connecting to Hanover Beach.
Honestly, that was that's really, I know I'm done, but, the Heritage Trail thing just put the icing on the cake for me because it's the backyard. You can see it off in the windows. It's stunning. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Garland does not make it easy for you.
No, I'm sorry.
Rebecca?
Hi, I am Rebecca Burris, and I don't know if you remember, but I was here in July. My project is out of the ordinary for everybody else's, but I'm still dealing with that failing north retaining wall and my steps. Since I was here last time, I don't know if you guys, you probably have some new photos, and there's an unsafe letter that that you got in there. So it has, since that time, of course, it's now got more lean to it, and the steps, there's a bigger gap between the retaining wall and where it used to connect to the steps, so I'm getting more washout on the steps, so the steps are getting worse. So, yeah, it's just, not something that's improving, and, I'm just trying to, I'm hoping that it stays up till all the weather's conducive, because I keep waiting to go out and see it laying on the sidewalk, because that's probably where it's gonna end up once it goes, but, so, yeah, it's pretty basic, cause when they poured that, they poured the retaining walls and the steps all together, and
That's your residence.
it's my residence.
Okay.
I've been there since 1985.
Wow. And the alley runs right behind you, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can use the alley. It's dark back there. I mean, this time of year is worse, but the front, that's my primary access. That's where I get all my mail and packages and that kind of thing, visitors or whatever, but.
Right.
I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
Is it a structure under our rules, and have we decided that our rules don't cover sidewalks?
We have, funded, step projects onto, an elevated area such as hers in the past.
Answers that.
I'm sorry. I know it's kind of an odd one, isn't it?
Yeah. That's bad.
And you're looking at a 50% request here.
Of 11, the estimate was 11.6, because my neighbor lady's gonna pay her part out of her pocket, I guess. I don't know what she's,
Okay.
So the building's not unsafe, it's just,
no,
Access.
it's my front,
It's-
I don't know if you, I'm right across from the Fairfield by
Cotton Mill,
Marion, yeah. And it's just, that's what's holding my yard in
okay.
to my house, yeah, it just, and I don't know, it seems like the neighbor to the south of me, we have the highest point of that, grade going up, but for some reason I got the bad wall, so.
Lisa, if it collapses, it would go into the street and, block off public access on that sidewalk.
which is what makes it unsafe.
Yeah. And it might
So it
cause
is
damage to
unsafe.
her property if the,
That's right.
rest of the dirt moves with it.
Okay.
It has not been deemed unsafe by a building inspector only because it was reviewed in between building inspectors, but I provided a letter stating my professional opinion that it was unsafe.
Okay.
I just legally can't do it by state law.
Any other questions?
No.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Tracy McCrocken?
I purchased the home at 906 Main Street a couple of years ago. It serves as a secondary residence with the intent to move here eventually, and it's currently an Airbnb. We replaced the flooring in the home about a year ago, and we discovered some pretty significant foundational issues. The west side of the home is sloping, and it was allowing water into the second bedroom and caused a lot of damage to the subfloor. Once we pulled the subfloor in the kitchen, we discovered there's no foundation to the home at all. All the joists have deteriorated, and the front half of the home must have been added on at a later time, so there is foundation, but 2 bedrooms, the bathroom and kitchen, are setting into the ground. Most all of the joists have gone. The house is about 1.5 inches that it's sunk into the ground, so the windows have all shifted. There's visible gapping around the windows, and my maintenance guy was over there and said it was actually raining into the home from one of the bedroom windows. It's sunk so much that it's now collapsed part of the plumbing in the kitchen, and so we have to have that serviced on a bi-weekly basis. It's collapsed and caused a belly into the plumbing under the kitchen, so you can see visible soft spots as well as feel them when you're walking in the home. So we're concerned. We do rent this out as a hospitality site for tourists, so we were just afraid that eventually the floor is already starting to crack, that we just replaced outside one of the bedrooms where it's shifting.
That was an Airbnb that was on the tour last year. Yeah. My friend got vertigo there because she's so sensitive. She's like, it's because of floors. I'm like, it's Madison.
And you can see it. I know my
Yes.
dogs have a heyday chasing balls down that down the hallway.
I
but
remember it.
it definitely has its own quirky little lean to
Yep,
it.
yep. Is there an alley behind there?
There is.
Okay. Thought there was. So it's not deemed unsafe. It's because you're renting it, obviously. It's not unsafe.
We have also not had the opportunity to get a building inspector into her home
'Cause we've
either,
been
but
without
I've walked it, and it would, because of the structural issues, it would have likely been.
Okay, thanks, Nicole.
We currently have a long-term guest that's here to work at the power plant. An engineer, so he's in there long-term. So I wasn't able to get the building inspector in, unfortunately.
We didn't have one for a while either, right? You got a new one now. I met him, yep.
Right.
Any other questions?
No.
All right. Thank you very much. Guys, we're gonna have to speak up for Dee to hear us, probably. Do you have a microphone that you can bend over the speakerphone?
I think so.
Dee, can you hear?
She must, she just heard Jim.
I can hear. Can you hear me?
Oh, you're
Loud and
loud and
clear,
clear.
Dee.
Very good.
Answers that.
So Dee, tell us about your project.
Okay, my project is, I bought this little house next to me about 7 years ago because I didn't want any neighbors. And no one has lived in this house that was built in the 1940s for, I know for sure for 17 years because there's been no one in there since I owned the one next door to it. Anyhow, it has, the back porch has rotted off of it basically. And from the original little tiny house has been put an addition on it, a 2-bedroom addition, which was shabbily done and is now full of mold. So my intent is to take off the porch, the poor addition, and just bring it back to its original little 1940s house. It has aluminum siding on it now. We'll take that off and see what's underneath. Hopefully we could just use what's there. Otherwise it would be replaced with like product. The windows they operate, but they're kind of soggy around the edges, I guess. So we'll see what happens with that. It's kind of a project that it's not all taken apart yet to know exactly what's to do. Also, there's a awning on the front that was put on at some other time. You can probably see in the photographs. I'd like to take that off and also make it cute in the front. I mean, some kind of an overhang, I think, and shutters, and that's about it.
And Dee, will you rent it then?
Do what?
Are you going to use it for a rental then?
No, probably not. I may, but I think really just for family or, overflow guests,
Okay.
type of a thing. I may, I don't know. I won't be Airbnb-ing it because I don't like to do the cleaning so much.
Here you go. So would you put the residence in because it's not really very hard, but it's for the
Yes.
family?
I know it's on two streets visible. I didn't notice if there was an alley when I drove by.
There's not an alley on that. It's on a corner, on the
Right.
corner of Second and Marine.
Right.
And your question, was there an alley?
There's not really any alleys down in, well, not in that immediate area. But it's 2 streets that it's visible from. So I think that's the point of the question there.
I can confirm it's just the 2 streets. There is not an alley behind it.
No, there is no alley.
Dee, has that property been declared unsafe?
I don't think so.
I'm not finding any paperwork to indicate
It
it.
has not been deemed unsafe.
Okay.
No.
All right, and I presume the materials you're going to be using have been given a COA by Historic Board of Review?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I'm a forever preservationist. I like everything natural and how it came.
There you go.
All right. Any other questions?
No.
Dee, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
So Dee, you're welcome to hang on the meeting, or you can log off. I'll leave that up to you.
Okay,
applications scored. So 803 East Second Street scored 36. 206 East Main Street scored 36.75. 1017 West First Street scored 42.75. 127 St. Michael's Avenue scored 35. 906 West Main Street scored 33. And 302 Marine Street scored 33.75.
Okay. So we have 3 projects that scored high enough to qualify.
Which one did I miss?
I'm sorry?
The first
First
three.
three.
First three
First three.
scored.
Yes.
Okay.
So I would ask if we are prepared to make a motion to fund those 3, if the way be clear at Board of Public Works.
I make a motion that we approve funding for 803 East Second Street, 206 East Main Street, and 1017 West First Street.
Second. Or go ahead, Gary.
Go ahead.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Do we have any old business that we need to discuss?
I don't have old business. I do have a little bit of new business, so a little bit out of order. For each of you, I provided a list of the 2024 dates. That would be our typical meeting dates. The one issue is our November meeting. November 11th is a holiday for the city, so typically the Board of Zoning Appeals and Plan Commission typically meets that day, so they're gonna have to push their meeting. So then my question for you all is, do you want to move your meeting to a different date, or we could meet in the small room and bring in applicants one at a time like we used to?
Steve? Any issue there?
I don't have a problem with that date if we meet in the small room.
I don't think I have a problem.
All right.
My kid will let me know.
I see no reason that we can't meet in the small room.
Okay, it will just probably mean that our meeting won't be recorded, for the public, but, if we have funding by then and it becomes an issue, we can talk about it then.
Mhm.
I just didn't wanna not put that out there in case there was some concerns. Okay, so I'll publish those. The only other announcement I have is last night at council, the council appointed, Laura Lawson, to join the PACE committee. So her appointment is active. She had, knee surgery, so was not able to attend tonight, but I've recommended her watch our videos in preparation for the January meeting.
And I think it's appropriate for us to consider, and maybe we don't want to make this decision tonight, but I think there's a high probability that there will come a point next year when we have more applicants than we have funding for. And the question becomes, what formula do we use when that occurs? And I would recommend that we use the same basic formula that we used this year, and that is the projects are funded based on highest score to lowest score. In other words, the highest scores get funded and the lower scores, once we run out of funding, don't. But that's a recommendation. Would look for a motion from the floor for that.
I'll make the motion that we do our recommendations based on scoring. The highest scores take precedent over lower scores.
Second?
All in favor? Aye. So our next meeting date then is January 9th. And the application deadline for that has already passed, or?
Yes, and I haven't, lined them all out, but I have quite a handful.
We figured.
Yes. More than tonight, that's all I know.
All right.
Oh, we've talked about that. It's a good problem and a bad. I mean, it's great that we have so many people applying with projects. Wish we could fund them all, but we only get so many dollars.
Okay.
And I will likely ask the mayor, whether for the three that didn't fund, if they wanna amend and resubmit, if he'll waive that deadline. Cause I think that's only fair, since we have the majority of their packets already.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Motion to adjourn?
We have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We'll see you all on January 9th.
Thank
Have
you.
fun with your project.
It's a good one.